Our story begins in very stormy weather, with lightning tearing through the night's darkness. And in this terrifying moment, we see a major assassin watching his target's location. But suddenly, he turns his head, discovering that he isn't alone, that there is another assassin with his eye on the same target. Upon discovering that this second assassin is the silent assassin, he laments his bad luck that landed him with a professional killer. It seems like that, however, won't make him give up on his target, because they both know that failure is not permitted in their mission. He moves at a very high speed and throws a number of daggers at the silent assassin, whose body becomes transparent and the daggers pass through him. Since the long-range attack was ineffective, he decides to shift the fight to close range and engages him with his sword. But the silent assassin is no beginner and skillfully parries all his strikes with the dagger he has. In a second, he breaks his sword with a metal piece he has. Despite that, the assassin was prepared and pulls out a hidden blade, stabbing the silent assassin with it. An expression of surprise forms on his face, and when he discovers he's wounded, he disappears, and in the very next second, he appears directly behind him. They exchange fierce blows rapidly. Yet the advantage lies with the silent assassin, who disarms the sword and plunges his dagger into his elbow, then kicks him, breaking his leg, making him fall to the ground. He screams in agony from the pain. In the end, the killer's sword finishes its journey in the air and settles in the chest of its owner. Within seconds, we see the silent assassin standing next to the bed of the target, who is sleeping, unaware of anything. After moments of hesitation, he grabs his dagger with both hands and, with full determination, brings it down on his target. Of course, my friend, you're confused. You don't know what's happening, who these people are, or where we are. Since you're used to me telling you about everything, I don't miss any detail, so you know. I'll get you the olive and calm you down. But first, my friend, come on, give me a like, share, and all those nice things. And most importantly, send prayers upon the prophet. The best of prayers and peace. Let's go, because we're heading to Japan. In one of the high schools, the students there were spending an ordinary day, specifically during the break. You find some of them sitting and eating, chatting with their friends, and the player is laughing and finishing his tasks, like the student council president, Sato. Amidst all of them, why? Is their big brother Akira, and he's, by God, living his life in a state of total teacher mode. No one from his classmates even knows him, and that's because his walk and his looks all indicate that he's a side character. You know that guy in your class that you forget is even there? That's Akira, exactly. Anyway, Akira was sitting alone as usual, like any other day, reading his novels on his phone, and out of nowhere, one of his classmates says to him, "What, you're reading that novel too? Since we have the same taste, I want you to recommend me a few things, something to your taste." Akira replies that he reads anything that comes his way because he's just killing time, and that's that. Suddenly, from the phone screen, a black hole appears from the ceiling, and words in Arabic come out of it. I don't know what it has to do with the topic, but never mind. Anyway, and hop, before any of the students can move from their spot, a magic circle forms around the classroom, and a flash fills the place. Then they find themselves in a strange place. As they look around, they hear the voice of an old man who appears to be a wizard, informing them that the king wants to speak with them. And behind this wizard, the king appears, and next to him, the princess. So the students all ask, where are they? What do they want from them? What's even happening here? Then the wizard bangs his staff on the ground to silence them, and the king welcomes them to the kingdom of Restis, the largest kingdom in the human continent, and informs them that in the world of Morrigan, they are currently under attack by demons. And since the hero is the only one who can defeat the Demon King, they have been summoned from their world to this world. The wizard chimes in and lets them know that one among them is the hero. In order to find out who it is, they need for each of them to place their hand on the magic crystal. So one of those present volunteers enthusiastically, and as soon as he places his hand on the crystal, a status window appears before him with his personal information, most importantly his specialization. And of course, it turns out he's not the hero. The students start going one after the other to find out their specializations and the powers they gained after arriving in this world. And as soon as they realize they can see the status window themselves without the crystal, each of them tries and sees for himself. And the guy who was talking to Akira finds out his specialization is Wind Mage. When he asks Akira what his specialization is, Akira replies that he is an assassin. So he says to him, "No offense, man, but no one even notices your existence anyway, buddy." At that moment, the hero appears, and it's Sato. Akira is surprised because his power is much higher compared to all his classmates, even the hero himself. When only a few students remain, Akira decides to use his stealth skill to hide, because he doesn't trust the king and princess's words and feels they are plotting something. Besides, he doesn't know anything about this world, and it's better to be cautious. As soon as the students finish the inspection, the wizard tells them to rest for now until they prepare suitable equipment for them. Akira goes out with them while stealthed and thanks God that the matter passed safely, but he is shocked when he notices there are surveillance cameras in the palace. At the same time, one of the knights present in the palace looks towards Akira and smiles, as if he can see him. At night, Akira sits in an empty room, changes his clothes, and goes outside the castle to explore the area and gather any useful information. As soon as he sees the city, he confirms he is in another world. He climbs to the highest place in the castle, uses his stealth skill, and hears the king saying to the princess, "How are those kids doing?" She replies that they are just children from a world without magic and won't cause them any problems. So he asks her to continue the plan and emphasizes that she must prevent them from entering the archives to learn any more information than necessary, and their plan must succeed. At that moment, Akira was standing behind the king after hearing every word. He says to himself that he doesn't know what their plans are exactly, but he is sure they don't mean any good at all. He pulls out his dagger and prepares to kill the king, who doesn't sense his presence, but he can't move. The next day, we see the students gathered in the king's hall, eating a royal breakfast. Akira is still stealth, sitting and eating 2 loaves of bread, thinking, should he cancel the stealth skill and tell his classmates what he heard, or what should he do? His thoughts are cut off by Sato, who says to them, "Look guys, since our power increased upon arriving in this world, I want us all to use this power to help the king and protect the kingdom from the demons." So they all get excited and immediately agree with his words. Akira says, "Of course, you're just a bunch of fools, living in the bliss of ignorance while I'm suffering alone here." After breakfast, we go to the training ground and see them gathered in front of the knight commander, who introduces himself as Saran, titled the Last Handsome. His assistant, Gil, says to him, "Hey, ease up on these fancy moves of yours a bit. You're ruining your image." Saran continues his speech, saying that he will take charge of their training and that after a month they will enter the dungeon to test their abilities. And since he knows they have no combat experience, he will take on the task of preparing them. On the other side, Akira, while stealthed, decides that he must search for information elsewhere and leaves his spot. Saran asks Gil to take over his training and goes after Akira, who is surprised that he's being called out and is asked how he can help him. Akira freezes, in place from shock, because this is the first time anyone has detected him, and he asks himself, did I cancel my stealth or what? The answer comes from Saran, who informs him that his stealth is still active, and he can see him because his eye is special and can see differences in temperature. So Akira says to him, "Oh, I see. So what are we going to do about this problem then?" and pulls out his dagger. But Saran stops him and says, "Don't worry, I have no intention of telling the king or the princess." Akira replies to him with surprise, "What, you're not on their side?" Saran answers that the matter is a bit big, but the important thing is the king must not know. Since things are fine between the two of them, Akira informs Saran that he wants to enter the archives because he is clueless and doesn't know anything about this world. Saran asks him about the level of his stealth skill. Akira replies that it's at the maximum level, but all his other skills are at level 1, and he doesn't know how to raise them. Here, Saran offers to train him, to teach him how to level up his skills, since he won't find this information in the archives anyway. Of course, Akira gets excited because he's living a fantasy adventure like the ones he read about in novels and legends, but he still wants to return to his world because his family is surely worried about him. Saran says to him, "You're right, family can't be replaced, my friend." At that moment, Akira asks him if he knows a way to return to his world or not. Saran replies that he doesn't know, unfortunately, but he will need to become stronger because if he dies before returning, everything he did will be for nothing. So Akira says to him that he doesn't like taking help from anyone without any compensation. Saran asks him to tell him about his world, and that would make them even, so Akira agrees. We quickly learn that this world has 4 races: humans, demons, elves, and monsters, and each race lives in its own continent. And so Akira begins his training under Saran's hand, while the rest of the class gets beaten up by Gil. After a period of training, we find Saran telling Gil excitedly about the information he learned from Akira about his world and their strange inventions, and that they come from Japan, which is the same country the first hero came from, in addition to the fact that their stealth skill is at the maximum level, just like the first heroes. At that moment, Akira arrives at the place. Gil leaves, and as soon as Akira enters, Saran gives him a book and says to him, "I used to go to the archives every day to read a bit, and I found this dangerous book." Saran replies that it is indeed a dangerous book, and it contains plans for a coup against the king, and he wrote it himself. He hid it in the archives disguised as a cookbook because he knew Akira would find it. He explains to him that the king has gone mad and is willing to risk everything to change the world's laws, and they cannot allow that. But since the knight's loyalty is to the royal family, the matter is a bit difficult. Akira replies to him that after reading the book, he understood that Saran wants to overthrow the king in a sound way, but it would be easier if Akira, who has no connection to this world at all, just kills the king himself. He tells him that he infiltrated the king's room on their first day and was standing next to him, and the king didn't sense him, and he was moments away from killing him, but he couldn't do it. Saran says to him that that's better, because killing is never a simple matter at all, and even if his class is assassin, there's no need for him to get his hands dirty with blood since he intends to return to his world. Akira says to him with relief, "You're right. I don't know how I would have faced my mother and little sister if I returned to them as a murderer." Saran makes him understand that there's no problem with being an assassin who understands the value of life. Akira asks him, "Why are you so interested in me? And why are you telling me about the coup plan?" Saran replies that his expectations for him are high, especially since he didn't follow the herd like the rest of his classmates. He thinks for himself, and people like him are the ones who succeed in facing difficulties and overcoming them to reach their goals. Akira says in a low voice that this is the first time anyone has ever noticed or praised him. Saran says to him, "Since you like that, what do you say about helping me with my coup before you return to your world?" At the end of his month of training, we find the heroes on their way to the dungeon with the knights led by Saran, amidst the crowds who are happy for them and cheering for them, praising them. Akira sees a girl looking at them with anger. He disappears and appears behind her and asks her, "Why are you looking at them like that?" The girl is surprised by his appearance and says to him that people treat them like heroes, but they don't know the amount of sacrifices that were made to summon them. Akira replies that he doesn't know, so she says to him, "When you find out, come talk to me, because I feel we will meet again." She leaves him and walks away. We fly to the dungeon and see the kids going all out against the monsters that are piling up on them from everywhere, and they clearly look exhausted and fed up. In the midst of the battle, one of them leans on the wall next to him, and by sheer bad luck, he steps on a trap and the wall collapses, revealing an orc behind it attacking them. So Akira says to Saran, "I think we should retreat now before things get worse." Saran replies that his thinking is correct, and his performance was good for their first battle, and he uses the holy sword skill to wipe out the orcs. They all run towards the exit, but they are surprised by a second group of orcs waiting for them. With despair taking over, Sato remembers that the princess gave him a smoke bomb that repels monsters and asked him to use it in times of danger. So without any hesitation, he throws the bomb at the orcs, happy that they can finally get out. But they are shocked when the orcs disappear, and in their place appears a minotaur. And this is a tough, slippery monster that only appears in the deep levels of the dungeon. It attacks. Akira attacks the minotaur, and without hesitation, he dodges its attack and uses the pillars around him to plunge a dagger into its neck, only to be surprised that the dagger breaks. So he dodges the minotaur's attack and stops. Next to Sato, who is on the ground trying to lift his sword, Akira asks him not to burden himself more than his capacity, especially since his arm is broken. Sato replies that he must fight because if he can't protect his classmates, no one else will. At that time, Akira takes the sword from his classmate, attacks the Minotaur, and asks Sato, "Well, and who will protect you? Besides, the hero's power is important for saving the world." Sato says to him, "Well, and who will protect our class?" Akira replies that surely each of them can protect himself, and that's what they were trained on throughout the past month. At that moment, Sato has a psychological breakdown and sits talking to himself like a madman. So Akira becomes suspicious of his behavior and asks one of his female classmates to use purification magic on him in case he is cursed or under the influence of a spell. Indeed, his suspicion turns out to be correct, so he asks his classmate to continue treating Sato and informs Saran to use the move he knows. So he says to him, "Okay, start with your chant," and he uses the lightning flash skill to electrocute the Minotaur. At the same time, Akira moved quickly behind the Minotaur and uses shadow magic. Anyway, we find Saran pinning the Minotaur in place with the lightning he struck it with, and behind him, Akira appears, who uses shadow magic. With a gesture from Akira's hand, thorns emerge from the shadow circle. At the same moment, the Minotaur manages to break Saran's skill and brings its axe down on his head. However, it is surprised that the shadow thorns pierce its hand and parts of its body. With a gesture from Akira, he pulls it into the shadow. Akira feels tired and pulls the massive Minotaur. It's clear that shadow magic magic is not easy at all and is very exhausting. After a few seconds, Akira closes the shadow circle on the Minotaur's head, severing it to join the rest of its body, and it disappears into the shadows, under the watchful eyes of all present who look worried and afraid. Akira takes a few seconds to catch his breath, but suddenly, the shadow thorns emerge, as if rebellious, trying to escape from his control. Akira exerts his utmost effort to control them with great difficulty, until he hears Sauron's voice, standing behind him, reassuring him and saying, "Stay calm." Indeed, Akira follows his words, calms his breathing, and succeeds in controlling the thorns, canceling the shadow magic, and takes a labored breath after the superhuman effort he made. Sauron says to him, "Looks like you ran out of charge and shut down." Akira replies to him with a smile that they survived that disaster. After they return, we see Sauron talking to Akira, praising his performance and thanking him because they managed to return without any losses because of him. Akira replies that he is the one who helped him control the shadow magic, not to mention that he trained him. So Sauron says to him that it's the first time he has heard of this additional shadow magic skill, but it's clear that it's a very powerful and dangerous skill at the same time, and that's because it drains the user, in addition to being difficult to control. Therefore, he asks Akira to use it with caution and only in extreme necessity. When Akira replies that he knows, Sauron says to him, "Forget all that. The important thing is I got you a cool gift." He pulls out a katana and says to him, "Take this, the weapon of the first hero. I made it myself." Akira takes the sword and looks at it for a while, then asks Sauron in surprise, "Why are you giving it to me instead of the hero?" Sauron explains to him that the hero has the holy sword. Besides, the king would notice if this katana was with the hero. Akira says to him, "How would he notice? I don't understand." Sauron informs him that he stole this sword from the palace vault. At that time, Akira draws the sword and says to him with a smile that he will accept it with pleasure, of course. When he asks about the sword's name, Sauron informs him that it's written on its blade, but he can't read it. So Akira looks at the blade and finds out that its name is the Celestial Knight Sword, in addition to the fact that the first hero wishes that this sword would help his successor in accomplishing his mission. So Akira says that the first hero seems like a decent person and wishes he could have met him. Sauron says to him, "Speaking of the hero, what happened to Sato?" Akira tells him that the curse affecting him is strong, and no matter how much they try to dispel it, they fail. Sauron says that he knows who is behind this curse. At night, we see the princess in her room, standing in front of a magic crystal and casting a curse on Sato, so that he becomes a puppet in her hands and she can control him. But she is surprised by Akira breaking into the place and shattering the crystal with his sword. She asks him, "Who are you and what is your business here?" He ignores her and says that by doing this, the curse on the hero should be broken. So the princess says to him, "How dare you enter a lady's room like this in the middle of the night?" He replies to her angrily that ladies don't use curses to control people, and she should be a witch, not a princess. When he asks her about the reason for the curse she cast, she answers him that everything she does is to serve the king, nothing more. He asks her, "Do you obey his words? Why? And what do they want to achieve?" She answers coldly that everything she does is for the king, so he leaves her and walks away. At that time, the princess discovers a number of crystals sufficient for the rest of his classmates in the class. In the other part, we find Akira giving the crystal to Sauron and informing him that the matter turned out as he expected. So Sauron says to him that those sons of haven't given up yet. When Akira informs him that he faced the princess to find out the reason for her actions, and that she saw his face, he says that she is just a puppet in the king's hands, and asks him to go sleep because it's late, and it's better if he doesn't sleep in the castle. Akira asks him why. Sauron answers that the princess will cast her curse on everyone except him, but since she doesn't know who he is, the curse won't affect him. Akira says to him, "You mean she will try to kill me since she can't control me, right?" Sauron confirms his words and lets him know that they won't leave the castle grounds without searching for him in it. Here, Akira says to him, "You won't blame me for revealing myself to the princess, will you?" Sauron replies that he considers that act the recklessness of a teenager, nothing more, and as an adult, he should deal with such problems. Akira says to him, "I wish there were people like you in my world, man. I swear." Sauron replies to him, "Since that's the case, shall I come with you too? Your world?" Akira says to him, "No, man, you'll mess up the words. I don't want to trouble you again." The next day, Akira wakes up to the sound of noise coming from the direction of the castle, so he goes to see what's happening and finds Sato and the rest of his classmates and the knights gathered. As soon as Sato sees him, he asks him where he was. Sato looks at the ground sadly and says that Commander Sauron. Of course, Akira doesn't wait and passes through the midst of the knights until he finds Sauron lying on the ground with a dagger embedded in his heart. So he kneels beside him and says, "What happened?" And one of his classmates replies to him and says, "Stop acting. Isn't the dagger yours the one embedded in his chest?" Akira says to him, "How? And you all saw my dagger break when we were in the dungeon." Another one replies to him that he was suspicious of him from the beginning because he always disappears and only appears during training. At that moment, Akira confirms that he is under the princess's control and that he fell into the trap. Sato says to them, "Wait, guys, you can't accuse Akira of murder for a small reason like this." But his words have no effect, and the king sentences Akira to death for killing Saran. Of course, the soldiers, as soon as they hear the verdict, attack Akira without any hesitation. Akira uses his stealth skill and escapes from the place after seeing the looks of triumph in the princess's eyes. Akira talks to Gil, who informs him that Saran was killed by the king's special assassination squad, named the Midnight Crows, in addition to the fact that he is also a target for them, and that's why Saran left some things for him in his room that will help him on his journey. Akira goes to take the things Saran left for him and says sadly, "You were expecting all this to happen, and yet you risked yourself, Commander." At night, we see the king talking to the princess and saying that he didn't expect Saran to die that easily. The princess replies to him that she cursed everyone except the hero, and all they needed was a pretext to wage war on the east. So the king says that they need those kids in the war as soldiers, and the runaway will surely die alone. But as a precaution, he will ask the Midnight Crows to finish him off. The princess replies that all his requests are orders. I don't know why. I feel like she's the one controlling everything and acting like she's obeying the king's words. Anyway, the next day, we find him like this in the dungeon, and he remembers Saran's words that the best place to hide is the dungeon, but he must be careful not to run out of water and die of thirst inside. Besides, it's the best place to level up and increase his power. The deeper he goes into the dungeon, the stronger enemies he will face. So Akira says, since the dungeon is this good and useful for everyone, why don't they all enter it? Saran's voice answers that it's very dangerous, and even his stealth skill won't work against the monsters that have a strong sense of smell and hearing, and that even if he levels up sufficiently, he will be able to hide his sound, scent, and even his body heat. We see our guy Akira in the dungeon, beating up the monsters and moving from floor to floor. Guys, seriously, these things remind us of solo leveling and will bring back memories and make us all cry. Anyway, our brother Akira marks each floor he passes with a number so he knows exactly where he is. The days and nights pass for Akira inside the dungeon, fighting monsters until he reaches the 69th floor. This guy seems stronger than Sung Jin Woo or what, guys? Anyway, after finishing off the monsters, he remembers that Saran told him that if he manages to reach level 100, he will acquire a special skill that will greatly help him. The best way to level up is by defeating the bosses that appear every 10 floors in the dungeon. And since life isn't easy, these bosses are strong, and as soon as he enters the boss room, the door locks and doesn't open until one of them dies. Akira enters the 70th floor boss, which is a manticore, a lion with a scorpion tail, of course. The boss, as soon as it sees him, attacks him fiercely with its claws. Akira dodges its attacks with difficulty, but the viper's venom hits him in the leg and slows down his speed. Here, the manticore hits him with its tail on his back, throwing him away. Akira falls to the ground and says to himself that if he dies here, he won't be able to avenge Saran or even return to his home. At that moment, he decides to use his power and activates shadow magic. The thorns that attack the boss come out and cut it apart without any mercy. Akira loses consciousness due to his injury and the strain of shadow magic. A shadow envelops his entire body and begins to heal his injuries. In the castle, we find Sato talking to his classmates after breakfast and asking them to help him fight the Demon King. They refuse, using the excuse that they are still affected by Akira's killing of Saran and the atmosphere around him. He says to himself, this must be the effect of the princess's curse that Gil told me about. So he says to them, if that's the case, then fine. As you wish, I'll go alone. Before he leaves, 6 of his classmates who showed excellence in training join him. When Sato asks them about the reason for joining him, the magic dispeller answers him that all those present were not affected by the curse, and Kyo says to him that it must be related to the crystals he shattered with his sword, but he doesn't remember exactly what happened. At the same time, Gil was watching them and says that his ability to manipulate people is stronger than the curse, and thus he has carried out Saren's last instructions and wishes success to the hero and his team in their mission. On the way, Kyo remembers his meeting with Akira when he was working and asked him not to tell anyone, especially his sister. And after some talk, he discovers that their little sisters are friends and says that even if he was under the curse's influence, he should have helped Akira. On the other side, Akira wakes up and is surprised that he is healed. So he looks at his status window and finds that his health points are full and all his wounds have disappeared. So he says, how? I had 3 broken ribs, not to mention the poison that was in my leg. And he adds that his shadow magic level increased from 3 to 5 at once. Something seems to be happening. He thinks about the subject for a bit, and since he can't find an explanation, he decides not to bother with it for now and continues on his way. So he continues his journey in the dungeon until he reaches the 75th floor. While walking, he is surprised by a slime falling from the ceiling, so he retrieves retreats backwards. With one strike, he finishes it off. He is surprised when the slime disappears and an elf girl appears in front of him. So he uses the appraisal eye skill to know her information, but he is shocked by the amount of information and events he sees, so he cancels the skill immediately. At that moment, the girl wakes up and he asks about her condition, since he knows she is injured and her health is only 2 points. But she replies that she is fine and asks him where they are. He replies that they are on the 75th floor of the dungeon. So she says to him, "What are you doing here, Akira?" He replies that he came to level up and increase his power. She says, "I know you saw my information, but take it easy and ask me, even about my name." But she doesn't answer him, and he is surprised that she fainted. So he says, "I knew she was acting from the beginning." He carries her and goes to a safe place, in the dungeon where there is water. After a while, the girl wakes up when she feels hungry. So he gives her a drink and says to her that the best way to treat a fever is to maintain hydration and body temperature during sleep. She replies that she couldn't sleep because of extreme hunger. So he says, "Okay," and gives her food that he had prepared. At that time, she asks him how he knows all this information about patient care. He explains to her that his mother is sick and it was necessary for him to know all this. So she looks at the number written behind him and asks him what it is. He explains to her that he wrote this number because they are on the 69th floor, and he does this on every floor so he doesn't get lost. So she says to him, "Weren't we on the 75th floor a while ago? What made you come up when you came to level up?" He answers that this is the closest place with water. So she says to him, "You mean you carried me all the way here?" So she informs him that she is from the royal family and that this is the first time anyone has helped her like this. She thanks him and they sleep. The next day, they reach the 80th floor and we see the girl helping Akira in fighting the monster with her gravity magic. After they finish, Akira asks her why she is following him since her condition has improved. She replies that she is coincidentally going in the same direction he is going. Of course, this is an excuse, and she doesn't want to leave him like that. So he says to her, "If that's the case, then I won't protect you. Rely on yourself." She replies to him that she knows he has supernatural power, but she is not so weak that she can't protect herself. As soon as they enter the boss room, a blue dragon appears and attacks them with fiery breath. They dodge its attack, and Akira immediately uses his stealth skill, and the girl uses gravity magic to make the dragon lose its balance. Akira seizes the opportunity and attacks the dragon, only to be surprised that the dragon knows his location and hits him. The girl informs him that the dragon tracks his magical energy. She asks him to spread his energy all over the place to hide himself. The dragon flies again and attacks Akira, who is standing thinking about what to do about the problem he is in. Before the dragon pounces on him, he attacks it with shadow magic and distracts it. In the next moment, he leaps into the air and plunges his sword into the dragon's head, reaching the girl before the dragon falls on her and crushes her to the ground, literally. So the girl asks him in amazement, "What did you just do?" He replies that he is not an expert in magic to distribute his energy as she said, and that's why he gathered the magical energy around him and struck the dragon with it. At that time, the dragon's body lights up and the light fills the entire place. Anyway, we see a bright light covering the place. The dragon disappears, and in its place appears a black cat, and Strada doesn't remember, and the girl whose name is Amelia. Amelia uses the world eye to examine the cat and informs Akira that it is still alive but very weak, and that this cat has a shape-shifting skill, and if it were a real dragon enemy, he wouldn't have defeated it this easily. Akira says to her, "How did you know all this information? You must have used the world eye skill, right?" So she asks him, "What, you don't use it?" He replies that he doesn't know how to control it because his level is low, probably. She replies that it has nothing to do with his level and that he is afraid of the power of the world eye, which is why he can't use it. At that moment, they hear the cat's voice, and it says to them that it can't believe it was defeated by them and that it turned into a dragon for fun, but it's clear that the tables have turned against it. Akira says to her without surprise, "What, you can talk?" She replies to them that she is different from the other monsters, that the instinct controls them, and that she is smarter than the other monsters. Amelia says that most of those who call themselves smart turn out to be the dumbest afterwards. Akira says to her, "You're right, I've met many people like that." The cat replies that it might accept this from Amelia because she is an elf, but a human brat like him hasn't even lived 100 years yet, and he talks as if he has traveled the world and seen everything, or what? Akira says to her, "If your intelligence was as strong as your comebacks, you wouldn't be in this situation, and don't forget that your life is in our hands, and any strike will finish you off." The cat replies to him that he can do whatever he wants, but first there is a message from the demon lord that she must deliver to him. She stands up and lets them know that the demon lord is waiting for them in his castle on the volcano continent. Akira Akira takes a defensive stance and asks her worriedly, "How? Did the demon lord leave a message for me? And how does he know of my existence in the first place?" The cat replies that she doesn't know. Her mission was just to deliver the message to Salam, nothing more, and now he can kill her, and she lies down on the ground in surrender. Akira refuses to kill her, so she says to him, "Why not? Aren't monsters and demons the enemies of all races?" He replies to her that all that has nothing to do with him. Besides, the matter of demons being secretive doesn't make sense to him based on what he saw from the kingdom. Amelia asks him what he will do now because the door won't open until they defeat the boss or it defeats them. He answers that he knows all that. So the cat asks him, "If that's the case, then why don't you want to kill me?" He replies, telling to her that he likes cats and would never kill a beautiful cat like this. Besides, it's the first time he has met a talking monster. The cat says to him, "Mock me as you wish, but are you ready to die of hunger here?" He replies to her that there must be a way to solve this problem without killing her. Here, Amelia, after some thought, says to him that there might be a way indeed, and explains to him that the only way is for him to form a contract with the monster, and if he succeeds in making the cat submit to him, then the dungeon will consider it killed and the door will open. The cat replies to him that this is theoretical, and for the contract to succeed, the user must have perfect control over magical energy, and it's impossible for this brat to do. Something like that. Akira is shocked by the cat's replies, which are personal for no reason. So Amelia says to her, "Did you forget what Akira did a while ago? And to my knowledge, the only person who can do something like that is the first hero and no one else." The cat says to her, "You mean he compressed his magical energy outside his body?" Amelia confirms her words and lets her know that Akira can perform the contract. But whether it will succeed or not is another matter. At that time, Akira asks them, "What happens if the contract fails?" The cat replies that there is a possibility that one of the parties in the contract will die, or both of them will die. So he says to them with determination that it's no problem. When Amelia asks him why he insists on risking himself like this, he replies that the reason is that he wants to make the contract. The cat says to him, "Do whatever you want. I don't care whether I live or die." Akira says to her, "You keep talking as if you want to commit suicide, and this has become very annoying." She replies to him that she knows there is no benefit in continuing her life like this. He asks Amelia how to perform the contract. She explains to him that he must first choose a name for the cat. So he puts his hand on the cat's fur, and after some thought, he chooses the name Yoru for her because her color is black and resembles the color of the night sky. Then Amelia asks him to place his hand on the cat's paws, and then he begins to transfer his energy to her, warning him that there is no turning back if he does this. Either he succeeds in the contract and their souls become linked, or they fail and both die. So he begins to transfer his energy to the cat hesitantly, and he feels himself sinking into a sea of magic. He concludes that he is entering the cat's consciousness. Before he finishes his words, the place changes completely, and he finds himself in a city burning with corpses everywhere, and he sees the cat standing amidst the destruction of the city, killing the inhabitants. So he tries to stop her, but she attacks him with an energy blast and wounds him. Then she asks him to draw his sword and kill her, or his soul will be destroyed and he will become just a corpse, and the only way to survive is to kill her. At the end of her words, she attacks him again, so he jumps into the air, dodging the attack. But he is surprised by a strike from her claws that wounds him severely. As a result, his body bleeds. So he throws a few daggers at her, and she blocks them easily and enlarges her claws in preparation for the confrontation. However, she is surprised that Akira throws himself on her claws, which pierce his body. So she asks him in surprise, "What did you just do? You're supposed to kill me, and all this will end." He replies to her that he doesn't want to, and he knows that she doesn't want to kill him either. So she says to him that she is a monster, and monsters attack people. He replies to her that there is no law that says monsters must attack people. She says to him that it's their instinct, and even if she has a degree of intelligence, she can never get rid of her instinct. Here, Akira informs her that he knows she is tired of life in this manner, and reassures her that he will watch over her and not let her harm anyone else. At that moment, the destroyed city disappears, and Akira wakes up to find Amelia in front of him, happy that he is still alive. As soon as he places his hand on Yoru, the mark that was on her body glows and its color changes to a golden color. So Amelia says to her happily that this is proof of the contract's success and the linking of their souls. Then Yoru opens her eyes and says to Akira that she is curious to know where his journey will take him. Akira introduces himself to her, and she replies that she is happy to serve him. When Amelia introduces herself to her, she replies that she respects her since she is her master's friend. Within seconds, a teleportation circle appears that will take them out. Akira informs them that he wants to leave as soon as possible, but since Yoru is not at full strength yet, they are forced to wait. As soon as as Yoru informs them that the exit won't disappear. As long as no one uses it, Amelia suggests that they sit and talk and get to know each other more. On the other side, we find Sato and his team have arrived in another country called Yamato, which was founded by the first hero himself. It's clear that they are amazed because it's an exact copy of feudal Japan, so they look for a place to stay and enjoy the food and the atmosphere that reminds them of their homeland, and they get a little excited that they have traveled back in time. After they finish eating, all these conversations end with them, and Sato says to them, "Let's start planning what we will do because the money we have is almost gone, and we must find work." Frentaro and the Wind Mage suggest that they become adventurers since they can take on quests as soon as they register with the guild, like the adventurers before them did. So Sato agrees to this suggestion and continues that the second thing they need is information because they don't know anything about this world, and it's better to ask the residents and look for history books to know the exact situation. So one of the team says that it would be easier if there was a book that tells them how to return to their world. Here, Sato lets them know that from his point of view, the fastest way to return to their world is to defeat the demon lord. They are all surprised by his words, and Kyo asks him about the reason. He answers them that the king and princess are the ones who summoned them to this world, and they surely know a way to return, and if they become true heroes, they can negotiate with them. Besides, the rest of their classmates are under the princess's control in the castle, so their plan is that as soon as they collect enough money and information, they head to the demon continent. Kyo adds by suggesting that they must meet Akira first if he is still in this country, and he is sure they will meet him, in addition to the fact that he informs them that Akira is much stronger than him, and facing the demon lord without him would be very dangerous. Sato says, "Since you see it that way, then I have no objection." And Antaro says that he wants to talk to Akira more since they have the same interests. But one person objects because there is a possibility that Akira killed Commander Saran. Kyo replies to him that they discussed this matter before, and the conclusion is that they were affected by the princess's curse. The magic dispeller, Ryuki, says that she doesn't know if Akira would agree to cooperate with them or not. Shiori, the healer, informs Sato that he is the leader and the decision is his. So he replies to her that he knows Akira, and he is certainly stronger than them now, but he doesn't expect him to cooperate with them because he was with him in the same class since kindergarten until now, and Akira doesn't know anything. They are all shocked by Sato's words, and Kyo says, "You're right, Akira doesn't know anything about cooperation because he is always alone." Sato continues his speech that the Holy Sword is the only weapon that can defeat the Demon Lord, which is why cooperation is important, and since there is no reason for Akira to cooperate with them, because he is much stronger than them, they must reach the same level of power so that he thinks about cooperating with them. Therefore, they should stay in this country and increase their power until they become stronger than all the monsters in the area. On the other side, we see Amelia running in fear through the forest, and a person shoots an arrow into her leg, so she falls to the ground and continues running until she reaches the edge of the forest. At that moment, she finds a group of elves surrounding her, so she asks their leader why he is doing this. Their leader replies to her that she is still alive until now. At that time, Amelia destroys the ground and stands on the sea that sweeps away the others and says that she was expelled from her homeland and the water swept her to the other shore. At that time, there was a black slime that went and ate her, and when she woke up, she found Akira in front of her. Akira says to her, "My heart aches for you. You've suffered so much." Yoru says to her, "How? Slimes don't eat humans. Besides, if it ate you, it should have digested you before Akira saved you." She replies to her that she doesn't know, but she is grateful to that slime because she met Akira thanks to it. Akira says to her, "Stop joking. You should return to your country and finish this matter of yours." Amelia replies to him that it's impossible because it is no longer her homeland if she returns. Akira says to her, "If your little sister is the one causing the problem, then the matter is easy if you talk to her." Amelia interrupts him that the reason is that the matter is impossible. Akira makes her understand that he knows the matter is complicated because of her family, but she must settle matters with her and convinces her that he has a little sister too. Akira returns to his memories for a bit, and we see him giving his sister a new phone to replace her broken one. So she says to him sharply, "Is this what you were exhausting yourself for? Who told you I needed it to the extent that you work 2 jobs and don't even know how to sleep?" At that moment, their mother appears and says to him, "You like this, you made your sister cry," and asks his sister to understand the matter because Akira does this because he loves her. Akira ends his talk by assuring Amelia that family members, no matter how much they disagree, will remain in the end one family. Yoru says to him, "Your family is in another world. right? When Amelia asks him if he misses them, he replies that he wishes he could return home immediately to see his mother and sister, but there is something important he must do first. He explains to them that all his life no one noticed his existence. When he obtained the stealth skill, he was somewhat comfortable, except that only one person was able to notice him and help him and teach him how to survive in this world. His tone changes completely, and his killing intent spreads through the place as he says, "But this person was killed by a bunch of lowlifes. If it weren't for him, I might have continued living. That's why I will never return home before I take revenge for Commander Saran." Akira wakes up from his state to the sound of Amelia and Yoru, who ask him to control his anger. So he takes off his gloves and plays with Yoru, who tries to catch them automatically. When she asks him what he is doing, he replies that he used to do this with the street cats in his neighborhood all the time. After that, he hugs her and plays with her fur, both he and Amelia. Yoru says to them, "I hope you take the matter seriously a bit. And don't forget that if one of us dies," Akira interrupts her, "that he knows that if one of them dies, the other will die, and that they will be able to communicate with each other telepathically." When Amelia informs them that she envies them, he says to her that he is the one who made the contract with Yoru, not her. She replies to him in a low voice that she envies Yoru, not him. Of course, Akira doesn't hear her, and they get ready to leave the place. Akira asks Yoru, where does this circle take them? She replies that she doesn't know, in addition to the fact that very few demons know the secrets of magic circles and how to operate them. So he says to her, if that's the case, then after I achieve my revenge, I will visit the demon continent and make them create a magic circle for me. And by the way, meet the demon lord and let him know that you delivered his message to me. Here, Amelia, with sadness on her face, informs him that she read that blue teleportation circles transport the person to the place they desire. And if more than one person uses it at the same time, it responds to the wish of one of them. Akira replies to her that if her words are correct, then he doesn't know where they will end up. Amelia says to him seriously that she doesn't care where they go as long as she is with him. He replies to her with a smile that she says that because she won't go hungry as long as she is with him. Anyway, they enter the magic circle. At that moment, it occurs to Akira that if he wants, he can return to his home and his family now, but he dismisses that thought because that wish cannot be fulfilled before he avenges Saran. After a few seconds, they find themselves in front of a forest in the middle of a huge tree. Yoru says that this is the sacred tree, and that means they are on the forest continent, the homeland of the elves. Amelia's face shows signs of panic, and she asks herself what brought them here when she didn't want to return here in the first place. At that moment, one of the elves was watching them without hesitation and shoots an arrow at them. Akira pushes Amelia away, whom the arrow was about to hit, and blocks the second arrow with a dagger he has. Before the third arrow hits, he had reached the person attacking them and put the dagger to his neck, threatening him that if he moves, his neck will fly off. As soon as Amelia sees the person who was attacking them, she recognizes him, and we learn that his name is Liam. As soon as Liam sees her, he says that he came to see what the light that appeared was, but he didn't. Expect to meet the traitor who abandoned her country, and informs her that she has lost her position as a camera, and there is no place for her and her arrow, and asks her to run away as she did before. So Akira hits him on the head, and he loses consciousness because he doesn't like people who talk nonsense. Amelia thanks him, and he says, don't mention it because we are surrounded from all sides. At that moment, her little sister, Klika, appears from the middle of the forest and says to her, I can't believe you dared to return, and since you are here, you will pay the price for what you did to me, you child of destruction. We see Amelia walking in the forest with some soldiers guarding her, and they refuse to leave her side. As soon as she realizes that she won't be able to get rid of them, she ignores them and focuses on Klika, who is opposite her on the other side, training with Liam and a group of soldiers. Klika is running, and they are running after her, and suddenly she turns around and attacks them and defeats them. Amelia says with pride that Klika is much better than her because she exerts effort all the time to improve herself. The guard replies that it's true, Klika is amazing, but she must not forget that she is the one who will be the wise leader of the country in the future, not Klika. A look of sadness and worry appears on Amelia's face. Time passes, and we see Liam talking to Amelia and informing her that he wants to cancel their engagement. Amelia says to him that she wasn't the one who set the engagement, and that her father the king was the one who set it, meaning the matter is not in her hands. Here, Klika appears, who replies to her sarcastically that Liam doesn't want to marry her because she is a child of destruction. Amelia falls silent, and it is clear that her sister's words affected her greatly. After a while, we find Amelia confronting Klika, Liam, and a group of soldiers. Klika says that her sister has committed an unforgivable crime. Amelia tries to justify her position and explain the situation to them, but the guard captain interrupts her that she she doesn't deserve to inherit the throne because she is a child of destruction. The position should go to Klika. Amelia's memories that passed before her eyes end in an instant as soon as she saw her sister, and she hesitates. She tells her to leave the country immediately because of that. Klika interrupts her and says to her mockingly, "You want me to let you go? Okay, child of destruction, how are you? You deserve to live." At that time, Akira intervenes and says to Klika, "Don't you think you've gone a bit overboard?" Klika replies to him and asks him who he is and why he is defending this criminal. Akira answers her that he is just a passing assassin who happened to meet Amelia a few days ago. Klika ignores Akira and says to Amelia, "And now you've added another crime to your criminal record." Here, Akira says to her, "You've been annoying us since you came, and you keep calling her a criminal every now and then. What did she do for all these conversations?" Klika reveals her arm, which has a trace of poison, and explains to Akira that Amelia gave her poison under the pretext that it was a healing potion, and attacking a member of the royal family is an unforgivable crime, even among the family members themselves. Amelia says to her that she didn't know, and that she gave her a healing potion and checked it herself. Klika replies to her, "You mean I'm lying to frame you?" Amelia falls silent, and Klika continues her speech that matters are clear now, and she reminds Akira to return the fugitive criminal to them and approaches him. Amelia asks him in fear not to look into Klika's eyes, but Klika replies to her that it's too late and that she has charmed him using her ability, and he will be under her command from now on, and thus Amelia will be completely alone with no one on her side, not a single person. Amelia interrupts her angrily and demands that she cancel her ability and apologize to Akira immediately because she has no right to control his actions or feelings. At that time, Klika says to her, "What's wrong with you? Have you gone mad? This is the first time you've talked to me like this in your life." However, they are surprised by Akira's voice, saying to them, "Calm down, you two. What mind control skill on me? Am I a beginner or something? I drove the princess of the human kingdom, who is about to die, crazy, and she couldn't control me." Happiness appears on Amelia's face, and Yoru, who says that mind control skills don't work on opponents with a high level. Klika says that it's impossible for a mere peasant like him to have a higher level than me. Akira replies to her, "Peasant, peasant. The important thing is for you to know that you framed Amelia for this crime because it's impossible for someone with her personality to think of lying or harming anyone." Klika orders the soldiers who surround the place to kill Akira. Akira prepares to defend himself with shadow magic, but the soldiers hear a voice ordering them to lower their weapons, and the king appears with the guard commander, who informs him that Amelia has committed a great crime. The king says to him, "Shut up, these words are not for you," and asks Klika what happened. Klika replies to him in confusion that she didn't expect him to finish the inspection early, so he says to her that something came up and he had to return. Anyway, what's happening here? And when all the soldiers defend Klika and accuse Amelia of being at fault, the king says to Klika angrily, "You used your ability to control the soldiers? Cancel it immediately, and I will determine your punishment later." He turns to Akira that he will ensure. Klika is held accountable for her mistake and apologizes to him on behalf of his daughter, who used a cowardly trick and attacked him with a very large number of soldiers. "And since the matter has been resolved, please feel free to leave and go about your business." Amelia informs her father that Akira saved her and helped her return. The king interrupts her that it is forbidden for any other race to enter the land of the elves, no matter the reasons. Amelia is surprised by her father's answer and says to him, "If that's the case, then I will leave with Akira, since my presence is not welcome here anyway." So the king bangs his staff on the ground and says to her angrily, "You are wrong if you think you can leave that easily. Have you forgotten that inheriting the throne is your duty to lead this kingdom after me, or what?" Amelia falls silent and doesn't know how to respond to her father. So Akira replies to Amelia that she has the right to choose her own destiny. At that time, the king asks him not to interfere, since he is a stranger to their country. Akira says to him, "Just because I'm a stranger, you have no right to order me and speak as you wish, whenever I want, and if you talk too much, I'll punch you in the face." At that moment, Liam wakes up and apologizes to the king for his mistake. So the king says to Akira, "It's clear that my words are not baseless. Since that's the case, I will challenge you to a duel, and the winner's words shall prevail." Amelia tries to stop her father, but he ignores her and informs Akira that Klika will fight on his behalf, and the duel will take place in front of the sacred tree. On the way, Amelia apologizes to Akira for involving him in all this. Because of her, he replies that there is no need for her to worry because he is doing all this of his own free will, and asks her what the deal with this child of destruction is. She answers him that it's an old legend among them, when twins are born on the same day and are not similar to each other. The different girl is called the twin of destruction. So Akira replies to her in surprise, "What, you are twins?" Yoru says, "Isn't the cursed twin myth an old wives' tale that no one believes anymore?" Amelia answers him that her words are correct, but the color of her hair and eyes is different from her family's. So Yoru says to her, her. But how? Your twin, who is the closest person to you, says that? Does she not know that these words hurt you, or what? Akira says to her that from his perspective, he sees that the color of Amelia's hair and eyes is more beautiful than her sister's. This guy seems to be flirting, or what? As soon as they reach the tree, Akira prepares for the duel. Yora asks him if he won't use the stealth skill. He replies to her that his victory won't have meaning if people don't see him winning. Amelia asks him to be careful because Klika is the best duelist among the elves. So he says to her in surprise, it's clear that her status is high among them. She replies that they were all close to each other since childhood and were the most acquainted people. On the other side, the king asks Klika to prove herself and win the duel. So she enters the duel with enthusiasm and determination and asks Akira to draw his sword from its scabbard. He replies to her that if he does that, he might kill her by mistake. So she says to him, suit yourself. Anyway, my chances of winning will increase, not more. And before the moments of the fight begin, Akira reminds Amelia that she got angry on his behalf and asks her to wait a bit until the fight is over, and then she can do what she wants without anyone controlling her decision. As soon as the fight begins, Klika attacks Akira with all ferocity, and her blows rain down on him without stopping. But Akira dodges all these attacks with ease, and at the appropriate moment, he moves quickly behind Klika and grabs her. Then Yoru says to Amelia that her sister has great skill, but the advantage is Akira's at that moment. Klika asks Akira to take the duel seriously and stop mocking her. So he says to her, it's better for you to surrender before you hurt yourself. There, Klika enhances her sword with her magic and strikes with a whirlwind of wind that attacks Akira. Akira is surprised by this unexpected attack and blocks the whirlwind, pushing it away from him. Amelia says that Akira can't use any magic other than reinforcement magic, but she has mastered it completely. Klika continues to attack Akira with storms, and Akira continues to dodge the attacks and asks her, why are you crying? She says, who's crying? Can't you see my smile? That's like toothpaste advertisements or what? He replies to her that her facial expressions show no trace of happiness. So she attacks him angrily, but he dodges the attack and hits her legs, making her fall to the ground. As soon as she gets up, she finds him behind her, placing his sword on her shoulder and asks her to surrender, especially since her sister still loves her, and there must be a way to repair their relationship. She replies to him angrily that she will never reconcile with the person who took everything from her, and attacks him with greater force. So Akira is forced to retreat because of the random attacks that are going everywhere, and he asks Yoru to protect Amelia. Klika continues her speech that her talented sister took everything from her, and we go back in time and see Amelia asking why she is the only one with different hair color. Klika says to her happily that her hair is beautiful and that she loves it as it is. At the same time, the king informs her that Amelia will be a spirit medium, and this is a mythical ability that allows her to change the world as she wishes. And with her in the kingdom, it will be safe, and that's why she will be the heir. Klika finishes her memories and says that since then, everyone has become interested in her sister, and no one looks at her, which is why she won't stop until she takes back everything her sister stole from her. Amelia calls out to her sister and tries to stop her, but to no avail. At that time, Liam appears and gives Amelia something, and asks her to use that tool to save Klika. Indeed, Amelia uses the tool, which is a branch from the sacred tree and has purification ability, and cancels Klika's control over the soldiers. Klika cries because she is losing everything again because of her sister, and the strength of her attack increases. Liam and Amelia try to reason with her, but still, it's no use. So he decides to use shadow magic and confronts Klika's attack before it destroys the place. As soon as he activates shadow magic, it swallows Klika's magic and is about to swallow Klika herself. But fortunately, he withdraws it at the last moment and contains it within himself, thus withstanding Klika's final attack with such force that it sends her flying. Klika throws her sword on the ground after confirming her defeat and surrenders to the painful reality. Akira informs her that she is wrong if she thinks no one cares about her, and everyone cares. Only about her sister, Amelia, and that's it. When Liam and Amelia reach the place, she says to them, have you come to gloat over me? It seems you've become stronger than I thought, and you, Liam, managed to break free from my control quickly. Liam replies to her that she is wrong. So she says to him, wrong how? Weren't you the first one to run to Amelia as soon as you woke up and made her free everyone from my control? Amelia informs her that Liam wasn't under her control in the first place. Of course, she doesn't believe her and says to her, are you mocking me until when? Come on, tell me, Captain. What will it be? Will you kill me or what exactly? At that moment, she hears her father's voice that if anyone deserves punishment, it is is him, and that the one who took everything from her wasn't her sister, but her father. With the return of her memories, we see herself as a child training with Liam. Then she decides to train in a secret place to become stronger or go to the dungeon, and she says that her father told her that the furthest she can go is the 3rd floor, and beyond that is dangerous for her. But she hears a voice telling her that she won't become strong that way, and she replies to the mysterious person that she promised her father to obey him. So he gives her the same smoke bomb that the princess gave to Sato and says to her that it will summon suitable monsters for her to increase her power. Indeed, she takes it from him, and as soon as she uses it, a number of monsters appear in front of her. So she attacks them all, but she can't defeat them. So she exits the dungeon, surprised that they came out after her, which is strange because monsters aren't supposed to be able to leave the dungeon. At that time, she decides that they must stop the monsters or they will attack the residents. She attacks the monsters with determination until Liam and Amelia arrive at the place with some soldiers to help them. Here, one of the monsters runs quickly and stabs Liam in the stomach, killing him amidst the laughter of the mysterious person who is watching what is happening. At the end of her memories, her father informs her that Liam died at that time, and her feeling of guilt was psychologically devastating, which is why he had to make her forget what happened. Fortunately, Amelia awakened her power and acquired 2 abilities, which are gravity magic, and the second ability is that she traveled back in time and saved Liam. Because of her feeling that everyone's attitude towards her changed, because she was the only one who didn't know the truth, and because they were afraid that she would discover the truth, they avoided her automatically, including her father. That's why her father wanted her to prove her strength and win the duel, so that she would know that she doesn't need to control people for them to love her before they knew the truth. And he used Akira to achieve his goal, but his plan failed, and he was forced to reveal everything. At that moment, Liam apologizes to Klika and lets her know that he didn't want her hatred for her sister to increase, which is why he helped her save her. Klika says, "So my ability had no effect at all?" Her father answers her that a leaf from the sacred tree entered Liam's body when Amelia was healing him, and that's why he wasn't affected. Liam continues his speech that he was very impressed with Kliaka's efforts and her attempts to develop herself to the extent that he failed to stop her when things got out of control. So Klika cries, regretting all that she did to her sister, but she is surprised when Amelia says to her with a smile that she hasn't changed and that she exerts all her effort no matter what she does, and she is the kindest person she knows. So she hugs her and apologizes to her, and tears flood her face. At that time, all the soldiers run quickly to help Klika and treat her wounds. Akira says that it's clear that everyone loves her and she didn't need to control them. At night, the king holds a big party to welcome Akira and the return of Amelia. Akira says to him, "Since I won the duel, then Amelia is free to do what she wants, right?" The king answers him that he keeps his promises and asks him where he intends to go. Akira replies that he will go to the monster continent since it's the best place to maintain his weapons and obtain new weapons. At the end of the party, Amelia takes Akira to a quiet place and asks him to call her by her name. He is surprised by her strange request, but he carries it out anyway. So she says to him happily that she will go with him wherever he goes and will stay with him for a lifetime. He replies to her that since she wants that, he has no objection. On the other side of the world, we find Big Brother Sato apologizing to Kyo that they couldn't wait for Akira and were forced to leave the country of Yamato and leave. Kyo replies that he understands the situation because the monsters there are weak compared to their current level, and also the rest of the team will need better weapons. At that time, Gil confirms his words, saying that that's why their next destination will be the monster continent. I wonder what will happen, friend of the otaku. And with this, today's part of Akira's tale ends with us. If you've reached this far, you must have liked the anime, so don't hesitate to give us a like. And before you close, a video will appear in front of you on the screen now, so watch any one of them. I'm sure you'll like either one of them very much. And may you remain in God's care and peace be upon you, my friend.